Hello and welcome to this session, and in this session we shall understand the first part of speech. Yes, you already know that we have all of these parts of speech in English, and in this session what we shall explore is the very first part of speech, which is the noun. Well, that way in this session we will have to understand as to what really a noun is, how and why do we make use of nouns, and what the different varieties of nouns are. So let me proceed and give you the details about each one of these questions. Even before I tell you as to what a noun is, it is broadly believed that noun is a word which has been derived from the Latin language. But then, coincidentally, in Sanskrit also there happens to be a name called nama, and that is so similar to noun, so possibly it has been derived from Sanskrit also. Any which way, whether the word noun has been derived from Latin or from Sanskrit, the meaning of the word noun means name, whether it is in English or whether it is in Sanskrit. In other words, whenever you come across the word noun, what really has to strike to your mind is name. But then, what is it the name of? Well, it could be the name of places. What I mean to say is, it could be the word Himalayas, or it could be the word Red Fort, or even it could be the word Taj Mahal. All of these happen to be the names of places and are categorized as nouns in English. Not just that, it could also be the name of things. It could be things such as book, table, chair. All of these words in English which name the things are also referred to as nouns in English. Not just that, it could be the names of people. It could be Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. It could be the name Abdul Kalam. It could be the name Subhash Chandra Bose. Or that way, your own name, your parents' name, your pet's name, all of these names are also in English categorized as nouns. Not just that, it could be the names of animals. Lion, tiger, dog, not just these animals, the names that are associated with all of the animals are also categorized as nouns in English. Well, that way, even the names of the birds, the word peacock, the word crow, the word sparrow, and that way the names of all the birds are also categorized as nouns in English. But then, not just are these categorized as nouns in English. What you really need to understand is that even the names of the feelings are also categorized as nouns. Well, if that's confusing, have a look at this word joy. It is naming a feeling after all, and even this is categorized as a noun. Or take this word love. Even this represents a feeling, and this word love is also categorized as a noun in English. Not just that, even the feeling of anger, the word anger is also categorized as a noun. So that way, nouns also represent the names of feelings. And not just that, it could also be the names of qualities. Well, that way, kindness is a quality, courage is a quality, respect is also a quality, and all of these words in English are also categorized as nouns. So, all said and done, no doubt, whether the word noun has been derived from Latin or whether it has been derived from Sanskrit, what it basically means is name, and it actually includes the names of all of these entities. Well, that way, what really is the definition of a noun? Let me explain. Nouns in English happens to be an extremely important part of speech. In fact, numerous words in English get categorized as nouns. And if you'll ask me as to what really a noun formally is, then let me tell you that a noun happens to be such a word in English that names peoples, that names places, that names things, ideas, and a lot more. In fact, nouns happen to be the basic building blocks if you really have to construct meaningful sentences in English. Without nouns, it is definitely very difficult for you to communicate through your sentence what you really want to communicate. And if you'll ask me as to what really does the noun function as in a sentence, then let me tell you that A noun sometimes could be functioning as the subject of the sentence, or even it can function as the object of the sentence. Well, what does all of this mean, and really why noun is treated as such an important part of speech? Let me explain. Have a look at this sentence. The sun is shining brightly. Well, having looked at this sentence, in case I ask you a question as to what is shining brightly, then obviously your answer shall be that it is the sun that is shining brightly, and hence it is the sun that is categorized as the subject of the sentence. Well, that way the subject of the sentence happens to be such an entity that performs the action, and it is here that the sun is performing the action, and hence it is treated as the subject of the sentence. Well, moving forward, I shall discuss about the concept of subject in great detail, but then this session being a session on the concept of nouns, that let me ask you as to what really is the noun in this sentence. Well, I am sure that at least a few of you would be able to identify the word sun to be the noun of this sentence, and yes, you can notice that sun happens to be a part of the subject. Well, that way the word the happens to be an article, and that in English we have all of these types of articles, and again moving forward I shall definitely discuss about the articles also in great detail. But then what I want you to understand is that this session being an introductory session on the concept of nouns, that I am sure you are able to understand through this example that the noun here is functioning as a part of the subject. Well, now if you would look back at the definition, I'm sure you are able to understand that nouns function as the basic building block of the sentence, and that it can also be used in the subject of the sentence. Well, when I would give you a few more examples, then I'm sure you would be able to understand this better. So let me proceed. Now have a look at this sentence. The child laughed loudly. Well, again here, if I would ask you the question as to who laughed loudly, then your answer shall be that it is the child that has laughed loudly, and hence it is the child that is performing the action in this sentence, and hence is categorized as the subject. And if I shall ask you as to what really is the noun in this sentence, then obviously child happens to be the noun in this sentence. Well, I have already told you that the word the happens to be an article, about which we shall be taking up a detailed discussion moving forward. But again, through this sentence you have been able to understand that the noun can function as a part of the subject. Well, let me give you one more example. Have a look at this. The tree swayed alone. Well, by now I am sure that you understand that it is the tree which is the subject, because it is doing the action of swaying, but then in this sentence the word tree happens to be the noun. Well, I am sure that through all of these examples you have been able to understand that noun happens to be an important part of the sentence, and that in these sentences noun has functioned as the subject. But then if you would look back at the definition, you notice that the noun can also function as an object in the sentence. What does that mean? Let me explain. Have a look at this sentence. The gardener watered the plants. Well, if I will again ask you a question as to who watered the plants, then obviously it is the gardener who has watered the plant, and hence has performed the action of watering, and hence is categorized as the subject. But then, just in case I ask you an additional question as to whom did the gardener water, then you would say that it is the plants that the gardener has watered. In other words, it is the plants which is considered as the object in the sentence, because it is receiving the action of watering. I'm sure you have been able to understand the concept of subject and object, at least at a superficial level here, and let me again assure you that both of these concepts I shall be discussing in great detail moving forward. But then in this session, what I really want to communicate to you is that the noun can not only be a part of the subject, it can also be a part of the object. Well, what I mean is that in this sentence, gardener also happens to be a noun, and plants also happens to be a noun. Well, it is these words in English that are categorized as nouns, but then what I want you to understand is that the noun can not only be a part of the subject, it can also be a part of the object. Well, let me give you a few more examples to clarify this for you. Have a look at this sentence. The artist painted a picture. Well, now it is needless for me to say that it is the artist who is performing the action of painting and hence is categorized as the subject of the sentence, whereas what the artist has painted happens to be a picture which is categorized as the object of the sentence because it has received the action of painting. But then what is more important for you to notice is that in this sentence the word artist happens to be a noun. In fact, the word picture also happens to be a noun, and again you can notice that nouns can definitely be a part of the subject of the sentence. In fact, they can also be a part of the object of the sentence. Anyway, let me give you one final example. Have a look at this sentence. The chef cooked the meal. Again, in this sentence, the chef happens to be the subject of the sentence because he is performing the action of cooking, and a meal happens to be the object of the sentence because it is after all the meal that has been cooked and has received the action of cooking. All said and done, in this sentence the word chef happens to be the noun, and also the word meal as well happens to be the noun, and again you can notice that nouns can definitely be a part of both the subject and the object of the sentence. All said and done, if you would now look back at this, I'm sure that you have been able to understand as to what really nouns are in English. No doubt it happens to be a very important part of speech, and that way what I want you to understand is that all of these happen to be the different types of nouns in English. Yes, this being an introductory session on nouns, I have just discussed the concept of nouns with you at a superficial level. But then when I would discuss all of these types of nouns moving forward in my upcoming sessions, that the concept of nouns shall become completely clear to you. And if you'll really want to master this part of speech, all that you have to do is to be a part of my next session. Thanks for watching. Let's meet again in my next session.